In the dim light of the living room, a sense of unease hung in the air, thick like the shadows that danced along the walls. I glanced at my mother, her hands trembling slightly as she frantically searched for a way to keep our secret safe. My heart raced, and I couldn't help but wonder why we were hiding what lay beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect family life. The television flickered, illuminating the tension etched on her face as she caught my eye. "Mama," I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. "Why are we hiding this?" Dad could walk in any second. The weight of my question lingered, filling the space between us with unspoken fears and unacknowledged truths. She turned to me, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and urgency. "It's complicated, sweetheart. Just trust me. We need to be careful." As I searched her gaze for answers, I felt an unsettling chill run down my spine. What could be so significant that it warranted such secrecy? What family secret could unravel everything I thought I knew about us? Little did I know, the truth was more shocking than I could have ever imagined. A revelation that would forever alter the course of our lives. Just as the weight of the secret began to settle in, my phone buzzed violently on the coffee table, shattering the tension. It was a message from an unknown number. With a mix of dread and curiosity, I picked it up and opened the message. "I know what you're hiding. Don't think you can keep it a secret forever." Panic surged through me as I read those words. My heart raced, and I looked at my mother, her face draining of color. It was clear someone else was aware of our hidden truth, and our carefully constructed facade was on the verge of collapsing. In that moment, I realized we were no longer just hiding a secret. We were now in a race against time to protect our family from a revelation that could destroy everything. My mother's hand shook as she reached for the phone, but I held it back, my heart pounding. "Who sent this? What do they know?" I pressed, anxiety tightening around my chest like a vise. "Mama, please, I need to know." She hesitated, her eyes flickering with an emotion I couldn't quite read. Fear, shame, or perhaps a hint of guilt? Finally, she sighed, her voice trembling. "It's someone from your father's past. Someone who shouldn't be involved in our lives anymore." Every word felt like a cold wave crashing over me. I tried to piece it together, but the puzzle only grew more complex. As the days passed, the tension escalated. My father became more distant, lost in his thoughts and late-night work calls, while my mother became increasingly secretive, her phone buzzing with messages she wouldn't share. The tension reached its breaking point one stormy evening. Lightning illuminated the darkened living room as I confronted my mother, the weight of our secret pressing down on us like the storm outside. "Enough is enough, Mom. I can't keep pretending everything is okay while we're on the brink of disaster," I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. Mother looked at me, tears brimming in her eyes. "You don't understand, honey. If your father finds out what?" I demanded, my heart racing. "That we're hiding someone from his past? That he's living a lie?" Just then, the front door slammed open, and my father stepped inside, drenched from the rain. The atmosphere shifted instantly. He sensed the tension. "What's going on here?" he asked, his brow furrowing. The silence in the room was suffocating. My father's shock hung heavily in the air as he processed my revelation. Who is it?" he finally managed to whisper, his voice trembling. I glanced at my mother, whose face was etched with fear. I knew she didn't want to say it, but I also knew we couldn't keep this from him any longer. "It's Uncle Sam," I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "He's been trying to reach you. He knows everything about what happened all those years ago." As the days turned into weeks, the anticipation grew for my father's confrontation with Uncle Sam. Finally, the day arrived. My mother and I sat anxiously at the kitchen table when Uncle Sam walked in, his expression heavy with regret. "We need to talk," my father said, his voice steady but tense. The three of us gathered in the living room, and the silence was palpable. My father expressed his pain and confusion about Uncle Sam's past actions, and Uncle Sam listened, taking responsibility for the hurt he had caused. "I'm sorry for what I did," he said, emotion lacing his words. For the first time, I saw a flicker of hope in my father's eyes. "I want to move forward," my father replied, offering forgiveness as a step toward healing. My mom entered the house, her laughter echoing through the hallway, oblivious to the tension that had settled in the kitchen. David quickly stepped back, transforming from the man who had just shared his dreams to my mom's charming boyfriend again. I straightened up, attempting to regain my composure, my heart racing at the near miss. "Hey, honey, I'm home," my mom called out, her voice cheerful as she made her way toward the kitchen. David and I exchanged a glance, both of us knowing the moment was fragile, like a bubble waiting to burst. "Hey, Mom," I replied, trying to sound casual, but I could feel the weight of our unspoken connection lingering in the air. As my mom entered the kitchen, I plastered on a smile, attempting to act as if everything was normal. David greeted her with a warm smile, and for a brief moment I felt a rush of guilt wash over me. Here I was, caught in a whirlwind of emotions that threatened to disrupt the family dynamic we had, and yet I couldn't ignore the chemistry that had sparked between David and me. "Did you have a good night?" David asked, his tone light, but I could see a flicker of something deeper in his eyes. My mom nodded, her cheeks slightly flushed, and she began recounting her evening, completely unaware of the undercurrent of tension still crackling between us. I felt like an outsider in my own life, caught between the familiarity of my mother and the unexpected thrill of this new connection with David. As the conversation continued, I tried to focus on my mom's words, but my mind kept drifting back to the kitchen, those moments we had shared. The way he had looked at me, the connection that felt both exciting and dangerous. The more I tried to suppress my thoughts, the stronger they became. After my mom finished her story, David excused himself to the living room, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. My mom poured herself a glass of water and looked at me, her eyes filled with warmth and love. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. I nodded quickly, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just tired." But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I was wrestling with feelings I had never expected to experience, feelings that felt wrong, but also thrilling in their intensity. As the clock struck midnight, the tension in the dimly lit living room was palpable. "Can we talk?" David asked, his voice low. I nodded, feeling a mix of confusion and attraction. Earlier in the kitchen, I felt something, he said, his gaze intense. "Did you, yes?" I admitted, heart racing. He leaned closer, his warmth enveloping me. Just as our lips were about to meet, the front door creaked open. My mom stood there, shock on her face, and in that moment, everything shattered: the tension, the connection, and the secret between us. The shock hung in the air, suffocating and heavy. My mom's expression shifted from surprise to anger, and I felt my heart sink. "What's going on here?" she demanded, her eyes darting between David and me. The moment shattered like glass, and I felt exposed, like all my secrets had been laid bare. We were just talking," I stammered, trying to regain my composure. But my words sounded hollow. David stepped back, his face pale, shame washing over him. My mom's gaze hardened, and I knew I had to explain. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean for this to happen," I said, desperately trying to piece together an explanation. "I was lonely and David just—" He understood. David's shoulders slumped as he took a deep breath. "We didn't mean to cross any lines," he added, his voice barely above a whisper. My mom's eyes softened for a brief moment. Then she turned away, processing the turmoil in her mind. The night felt heavy with unspoken words and lingering tension, and I knew this incident would change everything between us forever. The weeks that followed, an uneasy silence settled over our home. My mom and David avoided the topic, but the tension lingered like a shadow. I spent nights reflecting on that midnight encounter, realizing the complexity of adult relationships. Gradually, things returned to a fragile normalcy, but the trust that once bound us felt frayed. I learned to appreciate the weight of secrets and the importance of honesty. As I moved forward, I vowed to confront my feelings openly, ensuring that our family could heal and rebuild without the burden of unspoken truths hanging over us.